All right, good day, hi, and welcome. Okay. All right. That is nasty out there. I don't want to play anymore. That's it. I'm done with winter. Give it back. I did play kick the ice ball today. Then a car came along and ran over my ice ball. No. The way it works is if you're Canadian, you're walking down the road and you see like an ice ball, you start kicking it. And you got to kick it before either the ice ball completely dissolves into nothing or until you end up missing it and walking past it. If you walk past it, you lose. If you kick it till it's nothing, you get a neutral point. But if you keep it, the further you go with it, the more points you get. How many points? I don't know. I don't know. Nice ball. Ice ball points, right? You know. uh, yeah, so I guess I got to do some geopolitics this week. Yeah. Sorry, it's like my beer still got ice in it. That's what I think about the beard in the winter times. Like it's like every time you come in, you're just like freaking icicles dangling off your beard. It's pretty funny. Yeah. So yeah, there's lots to cover. So I guess this is a this week in world crazy. I had a good day yesterday. I read a lot yesterday. I actually read 17 books yesterday because I brought 3 books up home just to read a page out of. But I read 10 pages out of every book except for the Bible. I read only 4, which is like reading 10 pages. I read 20 pages out of Sword of Kagan and 30 pages out of the Bride Collector and 10 out of it. So I read over 170 some odd pages yesterday, plus the pages of the books up there. What I'm trying to find up there is books that are easy to read in the lower light up there. So, even if so 17 books at once is a bit much, but, it's not like I have to read all of them every day. It's just, move them along as fast as I can. Last night, I finished chapter 7 and finally got into chapter 8. I've had another really funny point. I did a really funny monologue with two characters last night. There was like, it's either people are gonna love it or they're gonna be like, "This is stupid." What I mean? Like but I read it out to myself, and I'm just like, if it reads as well as I think it's gonna read, like I gotta test it on people, like who's gonna find it funny, who's not. But I'm at another part, funny part before stuff starts getting serious again. But yeah, so I'm into chapter 8 anyway. My goal is to finish my manuscript by February 14th or Valentine's Day. I don't know. I just picked that arbitrary day, right? Is what I'm aiming for. If it's a couple of days before, a couple of days after. I started writing my first manuscript December 31st on 2025, right? Or 30th. December 30th or 31st? Yeah, December 30th, sorry. 30th. Yeah, and anyway, yeah. So if I write a manuscript in 41 to 46 days, I think that's pretty damn good. Then I got to figure out how I'm going to get it to digital. That's going to be that's where the real work's going to start. So I'm hoping that I can get the first book done by June anyway, June or July, something like that. We'll see. As long as I get one book published this year, fine. My goal is 3, but we'll see. So anyway, that's what I got going on. The rest of the world, not much to report. Just everything's crazy like normal. Bitcoin going up and down like a freaking yo-yo. Gold up and down like a yo-yo. Silver up and down like. But guys, all I'll say is like, whenever you get like buy the dip, sure, I get that. But just keep the idea. Like the idea of the Bitcoin was for this kind of moment when you had to get out of Dodge and you have to move across borders. It's a lot easier to get Bitcoin out of the country than than it is to get like gold, silver, cash, or whatever out of your country, right? If you have to leave, whatever. But that said, my hunch is this. Again, not financial advice because you're not allowed to give financial advice because everybody's so freaking sue happy, right? But here's my take. Here's what whatever you have, whether it's jewelry, if you actually have bullion gold and little gold nuggets or whatever, gold gold bars, 1 ounce gold, whatever. Just hang on to it. Like, now's not the time to spend it. You spend it when the system fails. That's the point of it. All these people, I'm going to cash in out. Now, like they say, it's never wrong to take profit, sure, but I think you're jumping off the train way too early. You know what I mean? It's anybody with gold and silver, and I saw this the last time silver spiked. And I was just like, hang on to it because it's going to go to the moon. Like, it might take a couple of years, but trust me. And I was right. Pretty much everybody, like anybody paying attention knows that, like if you really know what's going on, you won't be getting rid of gold. They want you to get rid of what they're doing is how they manipulate. Like, basically the Rothschilds, you might as well say, and Goldman Sachs and BlackRock and all that, they pretty much own the cryptos now anyway. They did the exact same thing, as I said they would do. The same way they manipulate gold is the exact same play they use to get the Bitcoin. Run it to the moon, then make it crash, and when everybody panic sells because it's crashing, rather than buying more, like, don't try to call the top, don't try to call the bottom. I know that, but that's when they actually go buy it, and the banksters are already, like, they've got what do you call it, futures contracts on something they don't even own. You know what I mean? Like, they don't even own it, and it's like, oh yeah, well, we'll put you in for this many Bitcoin, whatever, and it's like, they don't have it. It's what they did with gold. It's like, they say for every 1 ounce of gold that's on a contract, there's like 500 people per ounce. Like I heard 11, then I heard 500, I heard 50. There's more than one person being contracted to the amount of gold available. So once you understand that, you understand, like, it's manipulated big time, right? And the thing that people aren't getting is the price of gold is not going up. The value of the currency is coming down against it. That's the whole thing that people don't get. Like, the gold, your ounce doesn't change from an ounce to bigger or smaller. It's always going to be an ounce no matter what. It's an asset, right? You hold it, you own it. You don't hold it, you don't own it. That's why anybody buying futures contracts in anything is kind of like an idiot. But it dupes a lot of people. I mean, it's a great way to... a usury-based fractional reserve, gee, how many scams can they come up with, right? But you have like three kind of tiers of people when it comes to the financial stuff. You have like your boomers that don't know anything about anything other than whatever the mainstream media says, right? That's how they really truly don't understand that the stock market is completely rigged and it's overvalued by like a ridiculous amount. And why is it overvalued? Well, it's Wall Street ripping everybody off. It's the too big to fails. It's the corrupt government. It's the it just goes and it goes and it goes, right? It's everything, right? Like in a righteous world, you would never be allowed to have a stock market to be able to buy and sell and trade stuff that you don't own or doesn't exist yet. You know what I mean? It's a scam. You know what I mean? Can you make money off it? Yeah, you can make money. Can you make money off of Bitcoin? You make money off of anything. But just understand it's a scam. It's gambling, right? That's all it is. And that's what people have come down to, like, how do I just find the right gamble to make myself rich forever? You know what I mean? And it doesn't work for 99.9% of people. Like, for example, passive income, right? All these videos about how to make passive income. Well, you know what you know what that business model is? Making videos on how to make passive income. Not actually making passive income from anything else. You know what I mean? That's all these gurus are like that, right? And you pick up on it, I have the secrets and you'll never have to work a day. Let me show you some proof positive that I made $1 million in a week. And you know how it is. And it never works out, right? Look, drop selling. All these eBay drop sellers. Oh, you make a killing doing that. And it's like there's a handful of people that did, right? And then all the, like, basically Amazon takes over everything. You know what I mean? So the whole point of what it was meant for gets kind of like, it gets saturated by like Asian markets and stuff. Like it just, you know what I mean? Like it just every time, right? There's no free lunch, is what I'm saying, and there's only pay me now and pay me later. So the big one is not to carry as little debt as possible. Right now I'm debt free. Bills are enough debt for me. You know what I mean? I don't have any current bills right now, but probably next week or the week after I should be getting my next hydro bill, and that's a big hit. That's money just ripping out of your pocket, right? And it's hard to recoup that. It's hard to recoup that, and that's what it is for most people. So they get desperate. They're like, okay, well, maybe I could take my last $50 and go gamble at the casino with it or buy lottery tickets. It's desperation that you're doing that, okay? Rather than, okay, well, how do I invest it wisely? Well, there's the kicker. How do you invest something wisely? Well, you're not asking how do you invest it wisely. What you're asking is how do I turn this $50 into $5,000 so I don't have to lift a finger without lifting a finger? That's what everybody asks when they say how do I invest wisely. They're looking to win the lottery. That's what they're looking for. And the fact that they don't understand it like that is why they get themselves into trouble, right? You're gambling. If I had $50, okay, well, I know how to turn $50 into $5,000. Buy a pair of work boots. Oh, but I don't want to do it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? That's mind you, finding a pair of boots for $50. Good luck, but you know what I mean? It's it is what it is. Like you can buy assets like silver or whatever, invest in that. Right now, okay, you get about a half an ounce of silver, I guess, or whatever, for that price. You can get stuff, like again, wait till silver crashes a bit and go out and buy some physical if you can find it. The other thing is jewelry. Like just hang on to the jewelry. Every now and then I find a gold ring or whatever, necklaces, whatever. I find them on some of my picks. You go and you do like you clean out an old barn or something like that. And you're like, okay, no problem, or an old house or whatever. And senior passed away, whatever. And they're like, okay, well, if there's anything in there, go ahead, Kate, you can keep it. And every now and then you'll find like a little bit of jewelry, or you'll find money, or you'll find like if you see birthday, like if you're ever cleaning up doing like an eco job and you see a birthday card, look at it, especially if it's an unopened one. If it's an unopened and it says happy birthday, open it. You're almost guaranteed to make $20 or $50 just by doing that. Paul taught me that when he goes, yeah, he goes, he says if you see a birthday card, he says open it, especially if it's an unopened one. He goes, chances are there's money in it. You know what I mean? Because people do that, right? Or Christmas cards, whatever. Always open them. I've made like $150 like that. Just throwing out people's garbage, and stuff like that. And they're just like, get rid of it, stuff like that. So sometimes you do come across gold, silver necklaces and stuff like that. Very rarely, or sometimes you find some on, especially if you walk. It seems like every time I find like something like jewelry wise, it's always near a church. You know what I mean? Because like people put on their good jewelry to go to churches or whatever. Or of course the big one is on the beach somewhere you find an earring or whatever. There's always something like that, right? Collect it, because you can take it to like little pawn shops and stuff like that and have it melted down. But the thing is if you only have a little bit of it, just hang on to it. I mean, don't do. The reason why people are always broke is not just because it's hard to live. That's part of it. It's because they throw in the towel way too easy on their stuff. They spend their money way too quickly on stuff they don't need, or if you had like say 100 ounces of gold and you cashed in on some in the past month or so, that's probably not a bad idea. You probably gave yourself, if you got rid of 10 ounces of gold, you probably, you paid yourself for the year, right? Like a year's income there. Stuff like that, so keep an eye on that. I think it went up to 5,600 and it's bouncing up and down like $500 a day. That's completely unheard of. And if people really truly understand what's happening with the gold prices, and how terrifying it actually is. It's like, like I say, my New Year's resolution this year was for 2026: don't die. Like I really don't know if I'm going to be alive at the end of the year. Just a lot of chaos going on. So that said, yeah, economic hits everywhere. 72,000 jobs lost in the States. Volkswagen losing that for the States. Here in Canada, GM took a dive at us and got rid of the night shift and whatever. But we're, losing ground, making ground. Like, again, the Canadian economy is a bouncing ball. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. Overall, it's up. The Americans, it's almost official now that they're in a recession. It's just they're reluctant to just tell people that, right? But, I mean, it's kind of easy to predict. Donald Trump's plan is an utter failure unless his goal was to destroy the United States. Which it might be. Like, I mean, when Trump's out there saying, oh, no, it's great, I want to see the dollar fall. He's been saying that all along. So he wants you to be competing with the third world is what he's saying. To make business more attractive, right? It's like, okay, well, we need third world wages everywhere. That's the way the capitalist thinks is, oh, well, we got to be more competitive. We have to be, like communists want to control everything, but capitalists, we can never pay anybody an honest living wage, because, the business will go under, and it's all these bullshit excuses, whatever. But on the other hand, when you have like these social programs and stuff like that, socialism, problem there is that it's like, okay, well, we're going to regulate our businesses, tip top tight, right? But the foreign businesses don't have any regulations whatsoever, and they're out competing us. A capitalist goal of out competing third worlders is not a good future. Yes, high GDP numbers, sure, but you know what I mean. Like, I think it's only the boomers that think the stock market and high GDP numbers are a sign of wealth for your country. It's an indicator, but it's not the be all end all, right? Especially when you understand, like, when you see really high GDP numbers, it means the CEOs are making money, not the little guy. You want high GDP numbers, but you need to have natural growth. You need to be able to pay people. That's the problem with the right, is that this idea of deregulate. Yes, you want as much deregulation as you can, but when it gets to the point where you just like people can't afford to eat, it's ridiculous. And then they got to compete with not only third world labor, but foreign workers coming in because of these free market capitalists. And again, it's not just the left; it's the right too. I bitch about the left a lot over the years, and their bad policies of, they want the cheap labor the same way the right does. You know what I mean? But it's like the common man is just not getting, getting the fair deal here. It's all about the corporations, right? So that's where, it's going to collapse the whole system doing that. But anyway, I digress. So, good, bad, ugly, that's kind of what's going on there. Or in the case, bad, ugly, and worse for the Americans, for their economy, and good, bad, and gamble for Canada. Again, we're getting trade deals that are helping, but like, again, we have to outrun the collapse of the United States, which is many countries around the world are kind of realizing that, yeah, it's going down. So treasuries are being dumped everywhere. Trump put 100% tariff or something like that on the Swiss for no fucking reason whatsoever. And they countered with the dumping U.S. treasuries. So, like, who got the upper hand there? You know what I mean? Japan, same thing. China got rid of like 640 billion after just getting rid of about 800 billion. Gee, why did the gold go so high? China's really like they're getting even for the stealing the freighter oil, right? So it's rough times. It's really rough times. There's rumors out there that China's been doing nuclear experiments and stuff like that. I don't know about that. I'd take that with a grain of salt. I'd need to see some, usually when North Korea does an underground experiment, there's like seismic activity that day. It's like, okay, that's not a normal, that's a very focused earthquake. That's definitely not, like they can differentiate through seismic activity, a detonation underground or an explosion versus an actual earthquake, right? It looks different. So the United States, again, looking to go to war with everybody. Like, again, it's literally they're going to want to go to war with everybody. These neocons are completely insane. Look, every world leader is completely batshit crazy. Some are less than others, but they're all going to get us killed. Like, you know what I mean? Like we only have these wars because of them, not because of the little guy. You know, like the average Chinese guy doesn't want to go to war with Taiwan. Neither does Xi. Like he says it, but like I mean, he's had every opportunity to do it. I think it's not because he doesn't want to take it, but I think his strategy is okay. No, let's use diaspora to get it because okay, if it takes us another 20 years or 50 years, whatever, we'll get it anyway. Because he knows that it would be a slaughter fest in favor of the Taiwan. China can't take Taiwan. They're not strong enough to do that. Even if they're the largest military in the world and the second most powerful, maybe, or third most powerful, depending on the technology. It's you're attacking Iwo Jima 2.0 when there's been a mobilization plan for 60 years. Like, good luck getting past that. You know what I mean? The Taiwanese would be able to defend the island with fucking muskets at this point. You know what I mean? Like it's like they're pretty fortified. You got artillery in caves. You got like all these choke points. Guarded by anti-tank, anti-shipping missile. Like, it's just, you name it. They're ready. They're ready. They're ready. The Chinese air power is superior to the Taiwanese, but it doesn't really matter because air defense systems in the jungle are almost impossible to find. You know what I mean? You find one or two, but like if you can't find air defense systems easily in, say, Syria or the Ukraine, good luck trying to find them in the middle of fucking jungle on an island, full of caves. Good luck with that. So there's that, right? So I'd take that with a grain of salt, but would it be unbelievable that they did detonate nukes? No. And what would that mean? Well, look, the United States is also looking for a reason to get back into doing that, which is, in the 1980s, there was enough pushback from the populace around the world of, anti-war. But the problem is the left is now dominated, so nobody listens to the left. It's like you know what I mean? But it's when you get the right and the left both agreeing that, hey, you know what? Let's not do this fucking nuclear expansion thing. You know what I mean? The Russians aren't doing it. The Chinese aren't doing it. The North Koreans, maybe once every 10 years, they'll do it. But everybody, let's just throw the START treaty out and let's just start detonating nukes. No. Just no. Stop fucking up the planet. These world leaders they're insufferable. They're insufferable. I'll get to the Epstein thing, talk about insufferable. I'll get to the Epstein thing in a bit, but yeah. Other things going on. The Alberta separation thing, I think they just had the signatures. What Alberta's doing different than what Quebec did here is the Quebec question was really hard to decipher back in 1995. Like, did a yes mean yes you wanted to separate or yes you wanted to stay in Canada? They made the language really fucked up and vague. I remember it was a big issue because people didn't know what to put on the ballot, yes or no. Where Alberta kind of just cut to the chase. Are we in or out? Is Alberta? Would you want Alberta to stay a part of Canada? Yes or no? Really plain, cut, dry, straightforward. Can't fuck it up. And so far, they need 250,000 signatures for separation, right? But I think they've already got 450,000 no's. You know what I mean? So something like 13% of the voting population in Alberta is yeah, fuck no, we're staying with Canada. We're not, you have to understand this whole Alberta thing is mainly spearheaded by the State Department. It's an agitation. The agitation like there is legitimate people in Alberta that want to separate, but they, dude, the border's right there. Yeah, you know what I mean. Just go if you hate it so much, just go. You know what I mean. And again, what their claims are, where in comparison to Quebec was we have to separate because we have to protect our culture, our heritage, blah blah blah. Canada's holding us back, blah blah blah, and whatever. And the way they made that claim was basically the Bloc Québécois for forever and a day basically didn't develop Quebec's resources and stuff like that, so that they could make the claim. Because if they started developing stuff, then it's like, well, no, Canada's not holding you back, right? So it's like, oh, well, you know. So that's what they did, okay. But it was mainly culturally why they wanted to do it. Now the separatists in Quebec are hovering around 23% at the high end, and probably 18% at the low end. It's mainly the older stock, boomers and stuff like that still believe in the. What the hell is the French guys? Vive la Quebec. The hell is Anyway, it was like France's hero, but he can go fuck himself. What the hell is the guy's name? He's like one of the most popular French politicians that ever existed. Like you got Napoleon, then you got him. He was the World War II guy. I'll blurt it out. I had a brain fart the last time. Legault? Not Legault. De Gaulle. Yeah. Yeah, it was fucking De Gaulle. Yeah, he's the one that kind of sparked that whole, separatism fever here in Quebec, right? And it was Justin Trudeau's dad, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, that got it going. You know what I mean? And then in 1995, I believe that was Chrétien by that time. Or was that Brian Mulroney? 1995. Again, it was 1995 anyway, and we had the referendum. Now, Alberta's claim is Ottawa's always fucking us over, the transfer payments to Quebec and other provinces, and you're standing way of pipelines and the freighters and stuff like that. It's more economic stuff, not cultural, right? But that said, 80% of Albertans are pretty much no. 30% would toy with the idea, but out of that 30%, maybe 15 are like, yeah, we'll do it. Like once you say what it's going to cost. But like the Quebec referendum, no, they don't have an economic plan. No, again, there's a lot of stuff talking about. What I'm more worried about is the United States throwing money at it, right? Because then they can say, oh, well, no, we made a deal. And again, this is what all the cheerleaders say. Look, the United States just made a deal with Alberta to separate. Now Saskatchewan's going to go and Quebec's going to go. And it's like, that's not happening. Now, the Americans will believe that because they don't typically get, Canadian media, right? And the media they're getting, like the Clyde Duth somethings, those type of people, they're pro, like they're partisans, right? And I'm not saying there's no issues that Alberta has. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that no, Alberta's better in the team than not in the team, because the same with Quebec. People still say that, about Quebec. Would we be better without Quebec? No, we wouldn't. The second one province breaks off, we start losing the country because the Americans would take it. You know what I mean? Like Quebec would be probably the only province that could be 100% self-reliant in absolutely everything, only due to the fact that it has the most resources of any place on the planet, all overall, right? It's the most resource-rich place on the planet. It's the most resource-rich province. You wouldn't know that because of the fucking Bloc Québécois holding our resources down, including oil. Like an east-west pipeline might not be necessary. What I think Quebec and Alberta should do is like, okay, we'll take some of the expertise from Alberta to help develop the oil here in Quebec. Well, we can't. Why? Because climate change, right? Why? Because it's these fucking Bloc Québécois, Parti Québécois guys. They're mainly Marxist, is really, but they're Quebec sovereigntists. That's all they care about, and they hold Quebec back on so many stuff. The fight is from within. It's not from Ottawa. It's not from whatever. The fight is from within. And the thing is with the separation, Alberta separate. There's none of them are addressing the actual issues that they're going to have after, right? Such as you're still going to have mass immigration. Like if you sign on to the United States, you get all their problems too. And guess what? Their problems are the same as our problems. So yeah, you fixed nothing, and you just lost resources. And all the Albertans that think they're still going to have those high-paying oil jobs, you know what I mean? Like no, you're going to be replaced by temporary foreign workers day one. Why? Because the Americans don't have the same protections, like worker protections that we have. They have a more open market, so they can just fire people willy-nilly at a lot of places unless they've got an actual union, right? And you have to understand, a lot of the companies are American companies that are in Alberta, right? So the problem you have there is that they're going to favor their guys. Yeah, Albertans would be thrown under the bus so fast by the Americans. Like if you think Ottawa's bad, just wait till you're run by Washington. Fuck. Good luck. Good luck. So no, this whole PJ and the whatever guys, out there in the news talking about Alberta separation, most people have had the correct, no. Team Canada, elbows up. Yeah, I know the elbows up is still cringe. I agree. But like I said, it's leading to more nationalism. It's not what it is today. It's what is it going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. That, don't be so short term to be reactionary on everything. That's what I hate about people when it comes to these things. It's like you only think 2 minutes down the road. Look, if you war game things down the road, you realize that it's almost impossible to start a country, no matter how many resources you have right now. It's almost impossible to do. To come up with your own banking system and stuff like that. Oh, we'll just use the US dollar. And you will be a slave to US debt, meaning you lose all your accesses to Washington. And on top of that, you got to pay that $38 trillion back. Like, who would want to sign on to that? Even Greenland are like, yeah, you offered us $10 million a piece, but no thanks. Thanks, but no thanks. Because we know what is attached to it. Like when fucking Eskimos up in the middle of the fucking Arctic can figure out it's a bad idea to join the United States. Like, if they can figure it out, Alberta, I'm looking at you. You know what I mean? It's, again, Danielle Smith is just doing politics. The reason why she won't call out the Alberta separatists is she's politicking. You say a lot of things, good or bad, about her. But one thing about Danielle Smith is that she knows not to put her foot in her mouth too often. Every politician does it, I get it. But she knows enough that her base that voted for her in the party, right, is a lot of them have separatist leanings, right? So it's a small amount of people that have a lot of control over the party, right? Not the whole province. Like you have to be a card-holding party member to be able to vote on that, right? And that's every party in Canada. So if you are an actual party card-holding member, you can vote on who becomes the leader of that party. You get to do that. Pierre, he just won 80% or whatever of his party, and they're part of that faction too at West as well. So that's the thing. It's one thing I've complained about in Canada for years and years and years, and now people are starting to really understand what I talk about, is that we're always under some sort of fucking minority rule. The separatists have a lot of clout in Ottawa, and then we have, the Bill 101 and shit like that, when the majority of people don't want it. The separatism movement in Alberta, most Albertans don't want it. Most Albertans see it for the treason at it. Look, I look at separatists as treasonists. The Maple Magas, to me, are treasonists. I'm a federalist. I'll always be a federalist. It doesn't mean I like my government, but the thing is that, no, Canada first. You know what I mean? You're either in or you're out. And again, jump on a plane, jump on a train, drive the car across the border, fill out a visa. It's why wait? Why would you wait for the separation when you could just move to Montana? You know what I mean? they'd be happy to have you. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's that's the thing. You know what I mean? If you hate it here so much, you know. Bitch and whine about stuff, fine, but like at least stick together as a team. You know what I mean? It's hard right now. I get it, but the Jean Chrétien and Stephen Harper, kind of an oddball sitting there, but talking about they made Jean Chrétien again. Jean Chrétien is the most corrupt politician we've ever had in Canada, next to probably Adrian Clarkson. Talk about like a politician that has ripped like billions of dollars off the country. It goes Jean Chrétien, the most corrupt, Paul Martin, then Adrian Clarkson. Right? These are the politicians that we know of that have ripped us off the most. Right? Justin Trudeau was the worst prime minister we've ever had. The best two prime ministers we've had so far were Sir John A. Macdonald and then Stephen Harper as the reigning champion. Now, Carney, I know everybody hates it when I say it, but he's up there with Harper. Like, I mean, 12 trade deals in 6 months, or at least in the past year, plus a whole bunch of other ones in the works. Like, he might outdo Harper. Like, I mean, he might outdo Harper in 4 years. He might do what Harper did in 10. That's good for Canada. Now, you could argue the merit of the trade deals and what we're trading, like the green stuff and all that. Fine, knock yourselves out. I understand that. But what I'm saying, a deal's a deal, and if a deal's making money, you know what I mean? How's that a bad thing? And no, we're not doing a free trade deal with China. That's not what we did. What we did is a proper tariff war with China. We put tariffs on their EVs. They put tariffs on our canola. They didn't fucking say, okay, we're going to destroy the entire Canadian economy with tariffs on everything. And we didn't do the same thing to China. We said, okay, well, we'll do tit for tat, one issue at a time, the way you're supposed to fight a trade war. Maybe Donald Trump could pay attention to this because it's too late now anyway. Like, the damage is already done. Like, the Americans are fucked for the next 30 to 50 years because of him. It's that much damage. Like, it's historic damage. Like, we've never been here before. We've never seen this. This is not a cycle. This is an anomaly that we're in. That's just absolutely insane. But no, we're not. Look, I don't want to do more trade with China. I don't. We're kind of being forced to do that. No, that's not a national security thing that the Americans are making it out to be. Oh, we betrayed the Americans for doing a deal with China. No, what we did is renegotiated a deal we already had. That's what we did. We didn't do much more than that. We've diverted a little extra trade, sure, like some of the oil and stuff like that. Now the canola farmers will be fine for next year, and we get these EVs. And Trump's retaliation was to probably get GM to cut down jobs in Canada, right? So yeah, we understand it's dirty politics. But the thing is, every time they do that, like right now, Toyota or Honda is the #1 vehicle manufacturer in Canada. Look, at the end of the day, guys, we're going to have to build our own stuff. The Canuck car, we're going to have to build it, right? It's nice to do all these deals with everybody else, whatever. Like I said, to get us going, like maybe we work a deal with Toyota and say, look, can we use like a whole line of models? We'll brand them as our own, and then as we over the next say 10 to 20 years, we get our own research and development. Next thing you know, in 20 years, we're building 100% made in Canada cars. They'll still be allowed to sell their stuff here, whatever, and keep everything competitive. You know what I mean? So, like Teslas, for example, like Teslas are like basically VW now is out taking Tesla for EVs in Europe. And Teslas are like taking a massive hit. I mean, I don't know who wants a spy car anyway. Like, there's one thing the left, though, like, oh, the Chinese spy cars, oh, that's just farce, just as farce. But the Elon Musk Teslas are spying on it. No, they're all doing it. Like, this is what I hate about partisans. Don't be fucking partisan. Like, the system is run by the same people at the end of the day on one side or the other for the most part. I just look at it more like mob bosses fighting. So, yeah, more hits to the U.S. economy. It's bad, bad, bad. Farmers are taking more hits. Again, we'll see how the food prices start to go wonky this month, probably. We'll see. We'll see how much shorter. Like, maybe you got lucky and you got through the first season um, of this with enough reserves to feed the population. If you don't have starvation this year, it'll be next year if the policies don't change. Even if they do, it might be too late. They might have knocked too many farmers out of business. Even if Bill Gates buys up all that farmland, it's not going to be, like you don't shut down a farm and start it up the next day. Like when a farm shuts down, it shuts down. It takes a lot to get a farm up and going again. Even if you just shut it down, like you get rid of all your cattle, you got to get that cattle, you got to get that stock back again. It's crazy. The other thing going on again, there's a lot to go on the economy, but it could take up a whole video. Uh, Nobody's safe. Don't keep any more money in your account than you're willing to lose. I've been saying that for a decade now, or better part of it. It just is what it is, right? Like at this point, if you have to be told, you know what I mean. Last thing I would say about the the Alberta separation thing is Stephen Harper's take on it was interesting. He's been doing a lot of interviews lately, and even he is like, again, he fired Carney. Remember, he fired Carney as a finance minister, and he put Jim Flaherty in power for the Finance Bank of Canada and stuff like that. But even Harper's saying Carney's kind of on the right track. He's not saying it directly because they don't get along, but even Harper's like, no, Trump is liability. Like so when the best prime minister Canada's ever had, whether you like that or not, by all the numbers, if you judge him overall, yes, you can go on forever and a day all the things he did wrong, but he was the least corrupt politician that we've ever, prime minister we ever had. There was no scandals for Harper himself. I'm not saying disagreements, but actual scandals, other than the Peter MacKay scandal, which was the only one really out of 10 years, where that was like $35,000 helicopter ride, on the taxpayer dollars. Outrage, yes, I know, but in comparison to a typical liberal scandal, is like $3 billion. Like what was the Paul Martin shipping scandal? What was the Schwenningen, Meech Lake thing? It's like how many fucking scandals did Crentier do? Like it just went on and on, billions and billions of dollars. So Trudeau, again, the Trudeau Foundation, it just goes on and on and on. It's just fucking ridiculous, right? So Harper, whether you like him or not, he has been the best that we've had. So when he's saying the guy he didn't like is doing an okay job or moving in the right direction, like you say, look, like Canada can have a military that can defend the entire country. It's not an impossibility, it's just a matter of will. And Carney is making that move. Oh, but it's not good enough. Yeah, because it's year one. You know what I mean? Year one. But if you look at where we were last year, I mean, look, Canada's moving all over the Arctic pretty fast too, much faster than what the Americans are. Right? And say, oh, that's just Trump getting what he wants. No, it's not that. It's an accidental win for Trump in that saying, but it's like, no, it's not a win. Like the United States is going to lose influence in the Arctic, not gain it. Look, the Russians. Look, I've been following the Greenland thing from the military point of view, and like everybody's, the Danes only sent 200 guys. Yeah, but those 200 guys are frontline special forces guys, and special ops guys and frontline soldiers. The Americans that are in Greenland right now are radar operators. You know what I mean? They're not a fighting force there. The Greenlanders are already shipping in weapons just in case, anti-tank, probably shoulder-fired stuff, I would imagine, and munitions. The French are also doing the same in an anticipation that not if they do it, but if they did it, you know what I mean? If they were to try it. So they're bringing in military equipment to fight the Americans, and it's specifically to fight the Americans. And the logistic problems of fighting in the Arctic. Number one, if the Danes said get out today, the only thing that the Americans could do is get on a plane and leave. They wouldn't be able to hold the bases, right? The other thing is you'd say, oh yeah, well we got this and we got that. No, you don't. The Americans the only group that can actually fight in Greenland is the 11th Brigade or whatever. Um, yeah, in Alaska. That's 12,000 guys. America has one capable out of their five icebreakers. They have one that's capable enough to keep to be able to get basically a carrier group up there. And one icebreaker is not enough. I mean, we got 19. And I always find it funny when Trump goes on about how Canada has to pay for these new icebreakers and so it's like, yeah, we're fucking designing them. It's a Canadian company down in Texas that's starting to build them. It's the Finnish company that's building them. It's the Quebec companies that are building. It's basically we're building them, and you're part of the partnership. It's not Trump's idea. These ships, these icebreakers that are coming. These are not American icebreakers. These are Canadian icebreakers and Danish icebreakers. Why? Because we know how to design that shit. The Americans don't, right? They don't have the experience. And most, like Canada could have its frigates up there because we have enough icebreakers to get us going through up there. But even at that, this time of year, nobody's going through up there. Not even the Russians. The Russians have the most icebreakers. We have the next most. Then I think it's like the Danes, and then like the Americans are way last. The Chinese have no icebreakers. So when Trump is telling you there's Chinese warships all over the Arctic up there, how? They can't get through. They got no fucking. The Chinese warships are meant to be in the South China Sea. You take those suckers up into the Arctic, the guys on board are going to freeze to death. Do you think those things are adequately designed for like minus 70? You know what I mean? In the Arctic Circle, I like no. Like they like I don't think those things could probably go past minus 30. At best. You know what I mean? Like yeah, no. And it's the same problem that look, the Harry DeWolf class patrol ship is probably the best military warship, Arctic warship ever designed. The only thing that would be like Hasselblad's or whatever that or Hasselblad version of the Harry DeWolf, because we took the Danish design and tweaked it for ourselves, and they already figured it out. You know what I mean? Norway already figured it out, so we took a Norwegian design and that, and then we had to, and even at that, like heated decks and stuff like the ship is an engineering marvel. And we got 6 of them. We have them down in the Antarctic. When the Americans train on Arctic warships, they're training on Canadian warships. Why? Because ours can move up there. Theirs can't. You get going through that pack ice, that'll rip a hull apart. Even an aircraft carrier probably wouldn't be able to would get stuck in that. The Danish corvettes that are they have one up there. Yeah, to be taken out by the air, or whatever. But mobility wise, it can move through a meter of ice. An Ollie Burke can't. It'd get stuck in that ice. An aircraft carrier probably gets stuck in less. A meter of ice is 3 feet. Doesn't sound like much, but when it's all fucking compression with the current, yeah, that's a different story. Yeah, fighting in the Arctic is almost impossible. This is why, like the dog sled thing, Trump going on about the dog sled thing. The reason why they use dog sleds is because that's what works. Yeah, they got snowmobiles and 4-wheelers and stuff, but all that stuff breaks down in minus 50. The dogs still run. You know what I mean? Minus 20, minus 30. Like, you want to put an Abrams tank up there? Go for it. Good luck getting it started. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like, hey, who put the applesauce in the fucking diesel? Yeah. Like guys here minus 20. Like the winter diesel here, like you still have to put like anti-gelling stuff in it. In the skidders and stuff like that. Yeah, my uncle had a skidder. Yeah, it's like minus 20. It'd be like you'd be sitting there, you'd put light a little fire under the fucking thing just to warm it up. To get the oil to fucking and the gas to not gel up on you. Yeah, like Arctic is once you start getting below minus 25, minus 30, life gets almost impossible. Yes, there are F-35s. I think there's like 3 of them that can function in the Arctic, and maybe 2 or 3, maybe 6 F-22s or something like that, or maybe a dozen. They have maybe a dozen tanks that can actually function in the Arctic. We're about to buy or build another 170. Not to mention like the snow coaches that we have that can move in the Arctic, and then the snowmobiles and stuff like that. Now the Americans would have the snowmobiles, so they have 12,000 guys, but to get them from Alaska over to Greenland, good luck. You know what I mean? Like, good luck getting that there. And where do you stage it? You know what I mean? Like, the Greenlanders, what the Danish special forces are doing right now is they're taking all the southern airports, right? Which is smart because they don't need the northern ones, and I'll tell you why. Because when you get to the top, now, Greenland's not the scale, but when you get to the top where the Americans are, that's where it's the hardest to fight. There's no roads; they can't come down. Sure, they can reload stuff at the air base, but they can't move troops across the tundra to invade. So you can hold them way up in the Arctic, and then when it's really bad, then you hit them with rockets. You wipe out all the base. Like, you're basically going to be fighting from the base, right? So, like, basically what it's looking like is the Danes are already starting, even with like so few guys between the Danes and the French and the other Nordic 5, including us. Remember, Iqaluit is only about an hour's flight across to Greenland, right? So, or Nunavut, what do you call it? Iqaluit, up in Nunavut there. So Canada can restock the Danes a lot easier, and even at that, it would be very difficult for us to do it. Like just through like air or whatever. So the only thing the Americans can really do is air power up there, and even at that, like to get F-35s up there or F-16s or whatever, they have to outfit these things to be able to function in the Arctic. And again, good luck with that. I mean, I remember a guy I worked with. He was an RCAF helicopter mechanic. And he goes, yeah, fucking nothing works in the air. He says, you're sitting there for an hour trying to take a fucking bearing off in -50, with a blowtorch, and everything breaks. And oh yeah, he goes, just to replace some hydraulic lines in the Chinook is like 6 hours. 6 hours of labor. It's just because it's like it's the like winter warfare is bad enough. Like, you look at what's going on in Ukraine, right? Winter warfare is bad enough. The Arctic is a level above that. You know what I mean? Even in the nice times, and you get like maybe 4 or 5 months out of the year where you could actually do any sort of fighting. So if the Danes keep, basically they're already starting to encircle the Americans in the event that they would try to do something stupid. Could the Americans win? Yes, but they would have to do it in a very in a 3-4 day. They'd have to take it within a week to make it feasible. Otherwise, you got to understand too, the Inuit, unless you just do airstrikes and wipe out every village right away and kill everybody, which would have international, again, the second the United States makes a dive at Greenland militarily, the boycotts, it's going to destroy the American economy. People are willing to sacrifice theirs just to, for the fuck Trump economy at this point. You haven't figured it out. Will the Danes do it, or will the Americans do it? Well, I'm thinking Trump, he wants to do it, right? Because he wants to do it with military force. He wants another Maduro thing, because he thinks the MAGA Trump's big problem right now is he thinks that MAGA wants this. That he's baffled. Like, why are some of the MAGA people not on board with this? I don't understand. I'm showing power and strength and sphere of influence and American exceptionalism and manifest destiny. And it's like, no, this is the opposite of what they want, right? So using U.S. You got U.S. senators or whatever going to Alberta to make deals that don't like Alberta's not a sovereign country. But again, is that how he's going to use to start the war? Okay, well, we'll start with get some traders in Alberta to allow us to sneak our military in, and then the other patriot Albertans will be fighting them, right? Yeah, you know how it's going to how it plays out. So the thing is that like, oh, getting back to what Stephen Harper was saying, he was saying he was in an airport, right? And he ran into a very prominent separatist. I have a hunch it was probably Gilles Doucet or somebody like that, if Gilles Doucet's still alive. But he says a really prominent. He didn't want to give names, but he goes. They were talking whatever, and Stephen Harper's still a federalist. Like he still believes in Canada and stuff like that. Okay, sure he's a globalist. I know all that thing, but he's still Canada. He believes Canada can defend itself. He believes all these things can be done. It's just a matter of will, right? And he's correct. He's correct. But he goes. This is telling. He goes. He had a conversation with a hardcore separatist. Everybody, he says, would probably know who he was. And when the annexation thing, the 51st state thing came up, and the Alberta thing came up, he goes. Stephen Harper said, "Yeah, I think well, the thing on Alberta is we're better together. Alberta's a better part of Canada." He goes, "I think we all would be." And the separatist answer was, "You might be correct." So when you got separatists starting to side with Canada first, once they understand like what it means to go it alone, it means that if the Americans did decide to invade you, you'd be shitting bricks like the Greenlanders are right now. Again, now the Greenlanders, again, if they only have 200 guys there right now, that's fine. That's more than enough to seize whatever they need to seize. But the idea is what they need to do is encircle the Americans before they can even land. So that if it looks like an invasion overnight of whatever, the second they step out of line, you can whack them right away. If the Ukraine would have mobilized 2 days, 3 days, or a week before, or a month before, like the way the Finns are demobilized, like the Finns, it would be harder for Russia to invade Finland than what it would have been for to invade Ukraine. It's just the Ukrainians never believed the Russians would try it, right? And then they waited almost like 4 or 5 days after they invaded to start doing something about it. That's too late. Now the Ukrainians, again, the winter war going on there is just absolutely brutal. Men freezing to death. It's just fucking disgustingly horrible what's going on there. And yes, the Ukrainians are losing, but keep in mind, and I've said this over and over again for all these, if the Americans invade, it'll be 3 days. It's like, no, it's never worked like that. Russia said it would be 3 days. That was over 4 years ago. No, it's never like that. The Ukrainians will to fight. Okay, yes, they're losing, right? But the Russians advance. Like, is there 1 million men dead on each side of this conflict? I don't know. Probably. Will we ever know? Probably not. Because the numbers just, how do you track it all? It'll be years to figure out how many people actually got killed in this conflict so far. And what I'm telling you is when the number 2 military in the world can't take probably one of the easiest places on the planet to take, what does that tell you? You know what I mean? So Finland, yeah, they'd probably over time lose a war against the Russians, but at what cost to the Russians? Like if the Ukrainians are losing, say 4 or 5, maybe 6 to 1, some people estimate, to the Russians just because of the number superiority of the Russians. You have to look at it man for man. Then it's not the same. It's not the same. Yes, the Russians are winning, but you need like 3 to 5 to 1 to get that win, right? So the thing is the 4 to 5 to 1 win ratio for the Russians is still in the positive, but that is massive, massive fucking losses. So for every one Russian you lose, they lose 5 Ukrainians, right? But that's, wow. If you kill 1,000 Ukrainians in a day, you're still losing. You know what I mean? You're still losing 200 Russians, right? That's like per day. That is such a loss of life. All for the Zionist, neocon Jewish war hawks, right? That's what it's all for. It's just another Zionist mob, infighting, right? When you track it at the top. I think the Epstein thing is kind of putting light on that, but we'll get to that in a second. So yeah, the whole thing is the separatist thing here in Canada. it's a disruption. Um, I think because of Trump, the way forward is going to be more of a left wing way forward in all countries, just because including the United States, the pendulum is going to swing violently back to the left, and the left is going to be full Bolshevik when they get in power. They are going to kill anybody on the right. They're going to have you put to death for hate speech. Like that's where you're going. Trump has ensured this because of his fuck ups, right? The thing is that what we're looking at, Greenland is mobilizing, and they're not completely encircled the Americans on the bases yet. But I think what they're going to do is do that. Like they probably, of course, they're only going to show you so much, right? Canada's opened a new consulate in Greenland. So has France. Now, what's France's? Why is France in there? Whatever. NATO stuff. Again, mineral deals, whatever. The stuff that we're getting that the Americans are not getting. Which the Americans, this is the part that confuses even the most hardcore MAGA supporters. Like, didn't we already have Greenland? Didn't we already have the okay to do all the stuff that Trump wanted to do? According to the Greenlanders, like, yeah, well, let's make a deal. And it's like, if you don't make a deal, we're gonna invade you and take you over. Okay, well, let's make a deal. If you don't make a deal, we're gonna invade. Like, it's so confusing for the poor Danes. And like, what the fuck is going on? It's like, we've already said yes. We'd love to. We don't care if you want to put more missile systems and stuff. Like, it's like, oh, but we have to own it. It's like, but Trump's ego is like, he's so retarded. Retarded faggot Cheeto man. That's all you can call him at this point. He was supposed to be the good guy. I get it, guys. And again, sure, if I was an American, I would have voted for him in the last election too. But crossing my fingers that he would do the right thing. And he's even choking on the freaking border stuff now. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, it's so fucking frustrating. You have to hate the man at this point. Like, he's just, and there's still people that are on board with him. I don't know why. It's like, this guy's fucking you over. He's fucked over his base the most, right? And every American for the next 30 to 50 years, like, Americans are now coming back from trips like abroad, and it's just like everybody they talk to is just like, like they're saying the quiet part out loud, like, what the fuck's wrong with your country? Like, what's wrong with you people? You know what I mean? It's not a good time to be American abroad for sure. Like, everybody's just like gonna look down on you because of Trump. You know what I mean? And again, I know it's not all the American people. I know that for sure. It's kind of like the same problem we had with Trudeau. You know what I mean? It's like everybody thinks every Canadian is like that. No, fuck no. It's like it's just anyway. I digress. I hate them all. I really do. It's like, all these politicians, they're just so fucking incredulous, if that's the right word. They're cretins. They're cretins for sure. But anyway, yeah, so watching the mobilization, the Danes are still taking the threat seriously. Now, people say, oh, no, they're just mobilizing for this. No, they're not mobilizing towards the Russian side. They're mobilizing towards to encircle American bases. So once you start seeing artillery and shit like that coming in, then you know that the Danes are like really serious about, there's going to be a lot of dead Americans there. Like 12,000 Americans are not going to take 37,000 rifles, and then, again, there's like 37,000 rifles on that island. And the people using them, they might not have high saturation of firepower, but the fact that they can drop elk at 500 yards without a problem in heavy Arctic crosswinds, I'm just saying, if these people are like 60% of the Greenlanders are ready to kill Americans right now. 60%. Like, people that weren't fucking with anybody and thought you were their friend, and now they want to kill you. You know what I mean? They're ready to die for their little island. And you know what? I believe them. I mean, they shot Nazis, from the back of dog sleds. Oh yeah, the dog sleds. Oh yeah, yeah, it worked. It held the Nazis off. They can hold the Nazis off. They'll hold the Americans off because, again, you can't fight a winter war against the Inuit. Like, I mean, that's the dumbest thing you could ever do. They might not be brilliant tacticians, but just their blood is thicker than yours. They can survive the Arctic much better than anybody. Look, when Canadian military learns stuff, how to do stuff in the Arctic, they're usually learning it from the Inuit, right, and how to survive in the Arctic. So that should tell you something. Now, guide those people with tactics, with some special forces Canadians and special forces Danes, and like the Danish commander, it's their version of the SAS. Like that guy, he looks like he's like a no fuss, no muss kind of guy, and they're pissed. They're pissed. They're like, yeah, you want to fuck with our island, and they might lose, but they're willing to take you with them. And again, the Americans can't mobilize the proper equipment to fight a winter like an Arctic war. The only ones that really can, Canada, we've got to get things going again. We can, the Americans can in Alaska, we can elsewhere. Again, mobilization is slow, but we're getting there. The Danes can for sure. The Russians absolutely, like their whole everything they like. That's why I never understood why we didn't copy Russian designs on a lot of stuff. Like, why would we buy American designs when Russian designs will work better in Canada, right? Like an Su-35 would be a smarter super fighter for Canada. But like whatever we get, the Soft Gripen is also a very clever fighter for, look, they can function without all this extra preparation. They're built, like it's built into them. You know what I mean? Now, will we get the F-35s? I think we'll get those 16 that we already paid for, just because it would cost us twice as much to cancel the contract. Get those and just don't buy any more, because I really don't see the F-35 as a viable aircraft. Most people that have it are saying, like the Danes, they're like, these things are broke all the time. They're on the ground for maintenance all the time. Now, I get it. Every fighter jet goes through this, even F-18s, CF-18s, whatever. They spend a lot of time on ground for maintenance. The aircraft that does the best in the Americans' arsenal for maintenance is like A-10s and F-16s. And even at that, they're a shit ton of maintenance. You know what I mean? The A-10 probably being the best, right? But the A-10 is not a frontline fighter. The F-16 can be. You know what I mean? The thing I think we're going to see is that Trump either has to put up or shut up when it comes to Greenland now. So I think he's just going to shut up. Now, that said, with the stock market stuff, all that craziness going on, like I say, 10 years, the first 2 months of 2026 is 10 years worth of chaos in like 2 months, right? Have I not been right? But one of the things we're going to see is, like with the Iran thing, like that seemed to have went the way of the dodo for now, because it's like, okay, the carrier groups are there, but when are they going to do something? I think what is figured out by Trump is that this time the Iranians might not do a limited counterstrike. They're going to actually go full bore, which is the end of Israel if they do. Like, good fucking riddance, you know what I mean? Sick and tired of them fucking up everything. But the thing is that the Americans can't win that war. Like, they would destroy so much in scorched earth. Like, the Iranians can do so much scorched earth there. The logistics that the Americans have against them is that they have to rely on naval bases to reload the Ollieburgs, right? So they can fire off all these missiles, like 150 missiles, and whatever. Great, but then they're sitting at a dock for hours on end being reloaded because the Americans don't have. They used to have these naval supply ships. I forget what they were called. They were leftovers from World War II. And they got rid of a whole bunch of them, right? So they have very few. Like, we have supply ships ourselves, and we're, replacing newer supply ships. We only have a few of them, right? Usually we only had 3, but you need almost as many supply ships as you do ships. You know what I mean? Like, it's very crucial. So reloading these VLSs at sea are not easy to do. That's one of the downsides to them. Is they're good because you can, load a lot of missiles, but they're bad because they're hard to reload at sea, right? It's just really hard to do. Whereas like the harpoon missile packs, you can just load them on the deck, chain them in, and prop them up, and they're good. Hook everything up, and away you go. Where you don't have to try to load it. It's like loading torpedoes at sea. You almost can't do it. I'm sure it's possible, but it would take you like 3 days to load all the torpedoes. It'd be very, very, very difficult to do. Um, yeah, but it is doable. It's just it's extremely slow, and that's when you're the most vulnerable. Can you imagine? Like I say, they get you on the reload, so it's like, okay, there's 150 missiles on your Ollieburg and XYZ amount of rounds. Okay, so wait till the Ollieburg if it still has any phalanxes left. Those Vulcan mini cannons, whatever, or sea whizzes as they call them. Wait till those things are out, and then send just enough drones to outnumber the missiles. And then once you have enough drones outnumbering the missiles, you can blind the radars on the ship, and then send your cruise missile, or torpedo or whatever. It's a numbers game. I'm saying Iran's going to win. the Americans are not going to lose. They're going to lose piss poor, like really badly. And you have to understand they can hit every base, and there's really nothing the Americans can do about it. Like you could send up every F-15, every F-22, every F-35, but where are they going to land when the bases are all like basically, destroyed, right? And you have to think of the rebel groups that are going to coordinate attacks with this. The Americans will never be able to hold the bases. Look, the Afghanis, yes, because they didn't have a military. The Iraqis, they had a military, but you wiped out their military, and they were just ragtag groups. Whatever. Yes, you could hold against that, but you can't hold against militia groups or these jihadi groups or whatever, resistance groups, whatever you want to refer to them as, with Iranian backing. Because the Iranians are like, okay, well, we'll soften up, we'll open everything up with the rockets. You go in and you just slaughter people with the AKs. You know what I mean? Sure, they'll lose 10-1, but they've got more men there than what there is on the base. So if they have to send 40,000 guys to kill 4,000 guys, they'll do it. They're Middle Eastern people have proven that they're willing to die for their cause, right? But that said, they won't have to send in that many jihadis. Why? Because those fucking ballistic rockets are unstoppable, and they'll level every building like they did the last time. The Iranians have already shown that they can pinpointly hit things. The only thing about the Iranian rockets is they don't have big warheads. They have the range, they have the accuracy for the most part, but they don't have big warheads, so they don't do a lot of damage per hit. But you can always fire 10 rockets at one target if you need to. The Patriot missile systems are no good against the low-flying rockets. The THAAD systems, same problem. They're meant for shooting down ballistic missiles at 100,000, 200,000 feet, 75,000 feet, that type of thing. They're not meant to shoot things that are like 500 feet off the ground. You know what I mean? They're not designed for that. That's what the Iron Dome was kind of for. Like to shoot cruise missiles and shoot stuff like that. And Israel's pretty much run the United States out of half the Iron Dome battery, right? So again, Trump's got to look at this, and his commander saying, "Look, we really can start this war, but it will be a slaughter because the second we make the hit, we have to turn around and get out of there before they hit us. And the second we leave, they're going to take it out on Israel, which." They're well played to the Iranians. They've understood that air power wasn't going to win. The rockets, like Canada needs to employ what the Iranians do. We need to have like rocket batteries that can hit anywhere in the States, and not just the States, but anywhere in the States, anywhere in China, and anywhere in Russia, because Canada is the monkey in the middle between three hostile superpowers. Once we have that, we have deterrence. We don't necessarily need nukes. That said, the discussion of should Canada have nukes from the military rankings are taking place as we speak. A lot of people are still on the no because they don't want nuclear proliferation. But the fact that we're like, well, maybe if that's what it's going to take to keep the United States out of our backyard, whatever. Because again, I think what the Americans are going to try, again, is either an offensive at the Great Lakes, up somewhere in the Arctic around the Northwest Passage, which again, they're not ready to do this, but they could make it a presence with some warships in the spring or whatever and try to show force or whatever. But good luck. Good luck with that. The Arctic again, guys. The Arctic is like, even if you could say, well, like the maritime law is that if you don't occupy a territory for more than 8 months, it's up for grabs, right? So you can leave the Arctic alone for such a long time. Like under Harper, he was moving into the Arctic and stuff like that, but then under Trudeau, it didn't matter, right? But the thing is because it's so hard to seize territory in the Arctic and hold it, you know what I mean? Like you're stuck on a base. You know what I mean? Like you're not. It's almost impossible to do that, right? So, but the other angle I think is what the Trump administration is probably going to try to do is use these Alberta separatists to give them money, saying we gave them $500 billion to start, Alberta as an independent state, and we recognize the independent state of Alberta even before the referendum, right? Even though they're already losing, right? The Americans say, well, no, you owe us. That's American territory now. At that point, we have a conflict, like a serious conflict. We're going to be shooting at each other at that point. It's still, like, I still don't see how we're not going to be shooting at each other. I don't want to see that, but that's what we're going to be seeing. That said, by the time the Americans are ready, by that time, I think we're going to be mobilized. Like right now, we're just talking guerrilla warfare. Okay, that's what we got. But again, the more I war game it, the more the Americans are going to lose. Like Canada can invade the United States, right? We know that. But it doesn't mean we can't have saboteurs across the border, right? Which they would do the same to us. But the big one is the United States does not have a big enough military to take out Canada. They don't. Oh, we'll be in Ottawa in 3 days. No, we won't. If we know you're coming, like if we see military drills on the border like we did with Russia and Ukraine, like again, going back to World War II, Operation Barbarossa, we'll start mobilizing. Like unlike the Ukraine, I think Canada would. We're already talking about mobilization now, and to some degree, we are mobilizing more against the Americans than we are the Russians, because we know the Russians aren't really making the moves in the Arctic, other than staying on their side of the fence. You know what I mean? Like the Russians, like they know what their limitations are too. They're just defending their territory. They're not coming into the Northwest Passage. They're not coming down the Barrett Strait. They're not Russian. The Russian ships aren't doing that. They're staying on their side of the Arctic Circle, and that's it. Trump is lying. The Danish military is like, yeah, there's no Chinese ships taking over the Arctic. Like that's just a non. The Chinese can't get their warships up there. They have no icebreaker. You know what I mean? Like they just can't do it. Again, Trump just lies and lies and lies. That's the worst. I fucking hate liars. You know what I mean? I don't mind if you get something wrong, and you got it wrong for, because you got wrong. This is also why I don't jump on oh, look, this is breaking news. Because 9 times out of 10 is bullshit. It's wrong. Like my grandfather said, nothing of what you hear and only half of what you see. God rest him, he was right. But the thing is that, no, to use the bankrolling of Alberta separatists for pretext to go to war with Canada is something that is now on the table. Okay? Using the pretext of, oh, well, we're moving closer to China because we sorted out a trade dispute as pretext to go to war. Yes, the Americans would do this. They'll use anything as a pretext. Maduro. I mean, look, how's that working out? Oh, yeah, the oil prices, they dropping? No. You know what I mean? And look, the Iranians are ready to shut down the Strait of Hormuz. They can close that up in a day, 2 days. Now, I was, yeah, but we know about their drone aircraft carrier that they have. We could see it from satellite. Oh, they'll be taken out right away. Yeah, you know what? The thing about the Iranians, okay, is they're smart. I know what they're doing there. They're like, yeah, look where they have that aircraft carrier. Okay, they have it right where you would completely anticipate it to be, right? And it's basically a merchant ship converted with a deck on it to launch drones. That's what it is. And they have some ghost fleet carriers that could fire cruise missiles and stuff like that as well in the area, right? But the Iranians, what I think they're doing is, okay, we might sacrifice a few men here, but if we can get the Americans to sink that carrier, okay, then we have every right to sink their carrier group at that point. The Iranians are waiting for the Americans to make the first strike. And what I think they're going to let them do now, mind you, there's explosions being reported all over Iran right now. Is it more protests? What is it? I don't know. But I think what the Iranians are going to do is let the Americans make a complete, utter spectacle of, oh, look, we hit them, we hit them, we hit them. And then they're going to come out, okay, now we're going to hit you back. And, it's on. Maybe the Iranians will say, no, we'll just do a limited strike. Because again, they don't want war. It's only the Americans and the Israelis that want war. The Iranians, they have not displayed that because if they wanted war, they've had every opportunity to respond. The Iranians are more like the Russians in that sense, where they don't respond immediately. They take their time, and when they get you back twice as good. So would the Iranians just do another limited response? I don't think so. I think they're ready to go. Can they fight a prolonged war? No, but neither can the United States. Iran will be the most technologically advanced military that they've ever went up against, unless they invade Greenland or us. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people think I'm being hyperbolic, but no, you gotta figure out. And again, I know a lot of people think it's just a sideshow and it's just Trump bolstering so he can get people to move the military where he wants and stuff. It's not that at all. It is what you think it is. It is as Trump says. He is looking for a way to start the war. He is looking for a way to destroy the Canadian economy to take us over. That's what he's been saying all along. He has not wavered from that, and that's what his actions dictate. That he's trying to hit us economically as hard as possible. You got Lindsey Graham out there talking about how he wants to destroy Canada because we're critical of Israel, right? If you do this, we're going to destroy your economy and everything. That is the Trump administration. They hate us, right? They hate Canadians. I know it's not all Americans. It's the Trump administration and these crazy Zionist neocons. They're fucking retarded. They're insane. They're evil. You name it, right? That's what these people do. But I can also say this, that we see it coming. You know what I mean? Like, we're now, nobody trusts the Americans anywhere in the world. And no, it's not going to dissolve NATO. Yeah, the Americans have overestimated their importance of NATO. Yes, they are the biggest contributor. I get all that, whatever. But you also have to understand that they're not the only contributor. You know what I mean? It's just the United States always plays down to everybody else's military. Oh, our military is the best and that's it. And it doesn't really